Next, we have Ram Chaitanya. In fact, he's part of Ecowiser, and he's creating a more sustainably living with eco brands, right? So we'd like you to share more about what you do.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here on a Saturday evening. So maybe I'll just share a brief of how my journey has been and how I thought of starting this. So I was around 30 years. Before that I worked at Google and Danaher. In the middle I had done an MBA at INSEAD. I was working in Singapore and the US at this time, mostly in digital growth and bunch of things. I was feeling like generally just seeing the things around climate, and I was also feeling a little disillusioned at that point in time. I don't generally spend much money, and so I was like, how do I want to use my time most effectively so that one, I'm feeling like I'm actually doing something about addressing climate change as well as having social impact. So I didn't really know where to start and everything. I decided to first come back to India, and then I started exploring farming because I just had a natural pull towards working with the earth, and I learned a little bit about organic cultivation and all, and also in India, most people are farmers, as Mr. Shiva was saying, and also 20-25% of carbon emissions largely come from farming. So I thought I spent 6 months learning and then 6 months actually practicing on the field. Couple of seasons I did it. Realized that if you really want to do it at a larger scale, one, you need a policy change to support farmers to transition, and the second thing is you also need more people to be aware of choosing more sustainable alternatives and also buying them. And so I thought, again, my skill set was mostly in the digital space, so I thought, let me see how I can focus more on educating and providing more sustainable alternatives to people to choose. And that's how I thought of Ecowiser, where we started off actually with a browser extension where you would, let's say you're shopping on Amazon or any platform, it would show more sustainable alternatives. I started off with the US market. The primary intent was, again, if you see in terms of per capita emissions per person, US or European countries are like 5 to 10x higher than India. And also we tend to copy the West in terms of how we live our lives largely. So I thought, let's start there. Let's try to see if we can drive change there. And it's been over 3 years I've been on this journey. So far, done a lot of other things. Then we saw that our web platform was getting a lot more traction. So then we focused on like growing and educating people more on the website of providing more sustainable alternatives. Then brands wanted to like engage more with us in terms of showcasing their sustainable alternatives. Then we built out rating systems where we rate brands across multiple categories, right from fashion, which is our biggest segment, followed by skincare and household stuff like mattresses and cleaning products and other stuff. You look at like multiple parameters. Broad 3 buckets would be something like environment, worker well-being, animal welfare. Again, the objective here was to like make it easier for people to know what is actually sustainable, because there's also a lot of greenwashing, so it's very hard for people to know what's actually good and what's not authentic. So that's where we started off. And then gradually now we rate brands across all these multiple parameters. Our rating system has over 100 data points for each of these categories. And so primarily now we're working with brands mostly in US and EU, especially one, to improve their practices, and the second thing is also to ensure their compliances. Especially in the EU, there are a lot of compliances around green claims and other things that happen. So that's where I'm focused on.
So I just wanted to give an example or an encounter which I recently had. So I stay in Seattle. I also shuttle between Hyderabad and Seattle. So I know the global markets as well. So that Prada thing, I was thinking, okay, Prada was able to create a brand which had a value for it. So how can Indian founders or Indian people can create a brand where we can sell the value? In the sense, I see Indians say that, okay, the same thing which we get for 100,000 rupees. But I say, okay, we should also learn how to sell our product globally and how can we bring a value out of it. So that's where my question is, like, how can Indian founders bring value when we are selling a product? It can be a khadi, it can be anything.
Sure, we'll take the second question.
Sir. So regarding the global platforms like Met Gala, recently we have seen Diljit Dosanjh have represented Punjabi culture and Sikh identity, and he also made the history of wearing a first Indian to wear a turban man. So how can these platforms can be leveraged to protect and promote Indian handlooms and traditional craftsmanship by through celebrity endorsements or celebrity representation in this global fashion stage?
So we'll take like final comments based on the questions with some takeaways from Hyderabad for the world.
So regarding this brand building, I've also worked with some of these sustainable brands, and they are actually able to like charge a more premium. I think in India, people who only focus on the India market, they've kind of struggled, pure sustainable brands because of the price points. Because in India, most people, again, they are not thinking about their purchases. They are only thinking of the brand, or they just look at the design and they'll buy. How many of you ever, when you made a purchase, are asking, was the person who made the garment paid a fair price? Was this grown with like chemical free, or is it safe for my skin? Most of us are wearing polyesters, we are literally wearing plastic on your body. How many of us are ever thinking about that? Very, very few people are thinking about this. Why I'm bringing all this up is, if brands that have been successful, like one example I can say is No Nasties, if you're aware, is like they also sell abroad. They have very good brand story. I mean, like this, if you're able to like clearly communicate to the end user, like one about the material, the other is fair practices, and also if some people also care about animal cruelty, and also these aspects, if you're looking at all of this, especially outside the country, you will find a lot more success because people look at some of these parameters when they shop, especially in EU. In India, if you are planning to start, also look at international markets, especially if you're planning to do like an apparel or like an alternative. The thing is, when you mention Prada and all this, the thing is, people are not really paying for the quality of the product. They're just paying for a label. And for the label, if you want to get there, you have to invest a lot into brand building and very good storytelling. That's how you can probably differentiate. So it's a very marketing heavy activity you'll have to involve yourself in. So that's one way to do it. If you want to have more of a niche brand, then you should probably look at the European market and potentially maybe US as a second market. That's where it's easier to sell there. Here, I've also mentored some of these sustainable brands. Some of them had to shut shop because it's very hard to sell here. That's what I've observed.